ask not what your country can do for you. There's a long back. It's going to be, I believe, the dance of the
Peppina, oh, you little mouse, so won't you go away?
One ringy-dingy.
Hand off to Griffin, cracks the middle, gets the 5. Touchdown, Ohio State.
Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain.
I'm interested to know, Gracie, who's your choice?
Need you ask, George?
Time now for spinning my dad's vinyl. Here with all his skips, scratches, and pops is my dad, Frank Vaccarello.
Thanks, sweetie. And thank you for tuning into episode 23 of Spinning My Dad's Vinyl. This episode drops on June 6th, my parents' wedding anniversary. And even though Italian was not spoken around the house, there was still very much an Italian vibe within the family. When you're 100% Italian, it's hard for there not to be. And I'll be honest with you here. When I chose this album for this episode, it was because of the title and the fun-sounding music that was on it. When I started translating the lyrics, I realized it wasn't fun the singer was necessarily after. The lyrics of many of these songs are pretty gloomy and depressing. But since the vast majority of you don't speak Italian either, it won't matter, because the music is straight out of Italy and extremely joyful sounding, which reminds me of the good times growing up in an Italian-American household. So let's celebrate what would have been 62 years of marriage for my parents with Volume 23, Anniversary Special for the Cafe Italiano.
Miguel, 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 Miguel.
Ay, yo no sé lo que tiene Miguel, que ya no quiere bailar el bembé, tan guaranchero y tan divertido, pero no quiere bailar el bembé.
Miguel, Miguel, ¿qué tiene Miguel? No sé por qué no baila el bembé. Miguel, Miguel, ¿qué tiene Miguel? No sé por qué no baila el bembé.
Se voi sapete che tiene Michele, che non si senta ballare il bembè, tiene un peso, una capa crudele, per un minuto d'amor con c'è.
Miguel, Miguel, ¿qué tiene Miguel? No sé por qué no baila el bembé. Miguel, Miguel, ¿qué tiene Miguel? No sé por qué no baila el bembé.
Quella concetta teneva un rancore e le piaceva giocare con l'amore. E un bel regalo ha donato a Michele, che addolorato lo tiene a sedere.
Miguel, Miguel, ¿qué tiene Miguel? No sé por qué no baila el bembé. Miguel, Miguel, ¿qué tiene Miguel? No sé por qué no baila el bembé. Miguel, 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 Miguel,
che addolorato lo tiene a sedere.
Miguel.
And there is Miguel, or Michael, which happens to be my younger brother's name. That was written by Marino Marini and Ramon Cabrera. All right, why this album? Well, my parents liked to pull this album out when there was family around, especially when they were in from out of town. I vaguely remember hearing some of this music coming out of the living room while they were drinking and playing the game Tripoli in the family room at the big table. But when you hear me read the liner notes later in this episode, you'll understand why I tied this album to my parents' anniversary. Now, my mom has been gone 6 years and a week on the day this episode posts. My dad, just a year and a half almost to the day. In fact, my sibs and I just awarded the annual scholarship in our parents' name we hand out to a marching band member from the high school we all went to. That's how important music was in my parents' lives. And always having that Italiano cafe atmosphere, especially where good food and wine were concerned, was important in all of our lives. Okay, before I make my sister cry at work again, let's move on to the next song we can't understand.
Stai sempre cam, puntato cam, e già sta via. Non mangi più, non dorme più, che pecondria. Quei piacere che viene a di sta gelosia. Tu vuoi soffrire, tu vuoi morire, che tu fa
Corro in braccia tua mamma,
Guaglion, guaglion,
non faceva piacere,
guaglion, guaglion,
dillo tutta verità,
guaglion, guaglion.
che mamma te può capire.
Ma passi e spassa tutto sto balcone, ma tu sei guaglione. Tu non conosci femmine, sei ancora così giovane. Tu sei guaglione che ti mise in capo, va a giocare a pallone. Che vono di ste lacrime, vatte non mi fa ridere.
Corro in braccia tua mamma,
Guaglion, guaglion,
non faceva piacere,
guaglion, guaglion,
dillo tutta verità,
guaglion, guaglion.
che mamma te può capire.
Non è pittà, non allisciasti mustacelle. Non cerca te, non sube te, che l'occhio è belle. Non ha pensa, va pazzia che guaglioncelle. Non t'avveli, c'è tempo ni, per te inguagliare.
Chi desidera sa,
Guaglion, guaglion,
scorda della piccere,
guaglion, guaglion,
che si dice la papà,
guaglion, guaglion.
chissà come va per lì.
Ma passi e spassa tutto sto balcone, ma tu sei guaglione. Tu non conosci femmine, sei ancora così giovane. Tu sei guaglione che ti mise in capo a giocare a pallone. Che vonno di ste lacrime, vatte non mi fa ridere.
Chi desidera sa,
Guaglion, guaglion,
scorda della piccere,
guaglion, guaglion,
che si dice la papà,
guaglion, guaglion.
chissà come va per lì.
Stai sempre cam, puntato cam, mezza sta via. Non mangi più, non dorme più, che tu fa
Guaglione, which means kid, written by Nisa and Giuseppe Fanciulli. Okay, let's talk about the album I have chosen for this special anniversary episode. It's Joe Basile, Accordion and Orchestra, Aldo Conti, tenor and chorus, Cafe Italiano. It's on the Audio Fidelity label, number AFLP 1893. It's a vinyl LP, released in 1958. Its genre is jazz, folk, world, and country, and its style is folk. All right, just going to read the first couple paragraphs in the liner notes here. Cafe Italiano. You find it not only in Italy, but the world over. In Algiers, just a shade removed from the vegetable market of the Rue Rendon. In Paris's Boulevard des Italiens, just around the corner from the Opera Comique. In New York City's Greenwich Village. in the central district of beautiful Vienna, in the old arcade-lined Plaza Mayor of Madrid, in gay Havana, tropical crossroads of the New World, in Rio de Janeiro, where the old world blends fascinatingly with the modern, in 1,000 other cities, east, west, north, and south. Cafe Italiano. What are its ingredients? Attractions for the gourmet, of course. Appetizers, of course, female as well as culinary. Wine, of course, like Bardolino, Chianti, Lacrimi Cristi, or Asti Spumanti. Cheese, of course, like provolone, bel paese, mozzarella, gorgonzola, ricotta, or stracchino. Meats, of course, like boiled or dried sausage, cervelli, empanati, ragnoni, or palpitone. Fish, of course, with any one of 100 different tantalizing sauces. Sweet desserts, of course, and a generous store of cafe espresso. Then add the enchanting sound of an accordion, and you have the reason why millions of people in countries everywhere do not have to leave their native soil to visit a Cafe Italiano. Now, by the way, there is a perfect description. This was a perfect description of my favorite Italian restaurant, which happens to be in Las Vegas. It's Batista's Hole in the Wall, where the wine at the table is free, the portions are generous, and there's a little old Italian man walking around with his accordion playing music from whatever state the diner tells him they're from. It's great. We got to hang on Sloopy when we told him we were from Ohio. It's the perfect Cafe Italiano in my book, and according to the description I just read. And I can't wait to get back there in October when I go back for work. All right, let's look at the Discogs.com value. The lowest was it was $26.82 across the board. That was odd. Another thing that was odd, I couldn't find it anywhere else. Now, my dad's album overall was in surprisingly good condition, but since there is a tiny slit in the bottom cover, I'll have to call it poor. The album is in fair condition. With that value from Discogs, maybe I could get a couple of bucks for this album. And now, with apologies to the Cars, onto a song that has your typical "she's my best friend's girlfriend and she used to be mine" vibe to it.
M'ho comprata saponetta e a mattina in ciagioletta io mi lavo e penso a te. Sofia, Sofia, mi sei tanto necessaria, faccio puro solitario per sapere se pensi a me. M'ho comprata saponetta e a mattina in ciagioletta io mi lavo e penso a te. Sofia, Sofia, mi sei tanto necessaria, faccio puro solitario per sapere se pensa a me. la 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 la
And there is Sophia, not only the name of my dad's favorite actress, Sophia Loren, but the name of his youngest granddaughter, my daughter, who you happen to hear in the show's opening, although we spell it with an F and not a PH. That was written by Nino Olivero, Enrico Caputo, and Franco Mele. Now let's learn a little about the accordion player and band leader on this album. Born on September 19th, 1926 in Sommet, France, and died September 5th, 1982, Joe Basile was a pseudonym of Jos Basile, accordionist and veteran of the French music scene in the 1950s and 1960s. Basile's parents were Italian immigrants to northern France, part of the large wave of Italians who came to work the coal mines. Although his parents ran a cafe, they were also great music enthusiasts, and Basile began taking music lessons at the age of 6. He and his brother Enrico both studied the accordion, and after a few years of serenading patrons in their parents' cafe, began playing on a semi-professional basis by their late teens. After World War II, Basile met an accomplished accordion player and pioneer of the bal musette style, Gus Viseur, who encouraged him to pursue a music career. Basile moved to Paris in 1950, and several years later, while working a summer job, met the rising young chanteuse Patichu. She offered him the job of principal accompanist, and as her career took off, he became a recognized soloist in his own right. Patichu opened a cafe in the Montmartre section of Paris, which became the center of the bal musette scene. Around the same time, Jos married Gus Viseur's daughter. In 1958, Patichu toured the U.S., and Basile attracted the attention of Sid Fry, owner of the Audio Fidelity record label. Fry was about to release the first series of long-playing stereo records and was signing numerous international artists. Renaming him Joe Basile, Fry first recorded Basile's straight-playing and instrumental versions of Patichu's hits and other French cafe tunes. Then Basile suggested he do some of the Italian songs he grew up playing in his parents' cafe. And you are listening to one of those albums now.
Maruzzella, Maruzze, me mise dall'occhio mare e me mise in pietta a meno dispiacere. Maruzzella, Maruzze, me mise dall'occhio mare e me mise in pietta a meno dispiacere.
Maruzzella. It's a nickname for Marissa in Naples, and it was written by Ake Gerhardt, Renato Corazon, and Enzo Bonagura. All right, time now for this episode's interesting side note, and it has to do with the lyrics, or I should say the English translation, of this next song. As I said in the opening, the lyrics on this album are kind of depressing and gloomy, but it's offset by the upbeat music that it's sung in. And here's a great example. Scapricciatello, capricious guy. Here's the English translation. Oh my capricious guy, go home. If you don't want to go to prison within this month, how can I tell you that this is not a good thing? That girl is not for you. She is a crafty, unfaithful person. What's the matter if she is more beautiful than a rose? But I see you crying secretly. Leave her. Listen to me. This is not a good thing. You are too honest for this blonde. She was born for a bully boy. Move away from this charmer, for you will be ruined, mummy's boy. Okay, I want to thank lyricstranslate.com for that and all of the lyrics I did end up translating from this album. Okay, now let's hear that song.
Tu papillonna sei troppo onesta che l'annata per l'uomo insiste. Allontana te sta maestra che ti pierde figlia mamma. Non ho vita che te repassa te cerge a cocciente mossa. Tu fa credere e poi te passa te fa perdere la libertà. Come te la giudica non è cosa, che ella non è per te, che ella è un'ampesa, che vena di che bella che una rosa, se poi te vedo chiagnere ma scusa, lasciala sienta a me, che non è cosa.
Tu fa bionda sei troppo onesta che l'è nata per l'uomo insiste. Allungare la sta maestra che te pierde figlia e mamma. Non ho vita che te passa te ciangi e cuccente mossa. Tu fa credere quando passa la morte la libertà.
Scapricciatiella mia, vattene a casa.
Scapricciatello. By the way, capricious means given to sudden and unaccountable changes of mood or behavior. And it was written by Ferdinando Albano and Pacifico Vento. Although I wouldn't say this was a popular album around the house, the atmosphere that came from it was really a good tribute to my parents. I wish I could fully express to you the love and gratitude my siblings have for my parents on how they raised us, but then I'll start crying. And while both of them passed unexpectedly, we were able to extend that gratitude to them in some of our final moments that we shared with them. But I know my sibs and I are raising a wine glass in celebration of June 6, 1959, when our family got its start. Now, let's hear a song with a title that has the same last 7 letters of our last name.
E tira, tira, tiro, ciucciariella, sta cartella, tirala tu. E suona, suona, sono campaniella, ma chi aspettava non c'è sta più.
La femmina bruciare da malassata, lontana da campagna se ne chiusa.
Tira, tira, tiro i ciucciariella, per la strada, portami tu.
scoppa una strada anche sull'angolo, mezzo alla Doria, all'area campagna, una carretta piccerella, piano piano se ne va. Non sa fatica stu ciucciariella, non te ne pressa che tiene a fa, e sta lontano stu paesiello, ad nessuno c'è ad aspettare.
E tira, tira, tira ciucciariella, sta cartella, tirala tu. E suona, suona, suona campaniella, ma chi aspettava non c'è sta più.
Una femmina bugiarda malassata, lontana pa campagna si chiude.
E tira, tira, tira i ciucciariella, per la strada portava tu. Tiro i ciucciariella per la strada portami
Spinning My Dad's Vinyl.
Nussina Gina, Nussina Sofia, non c'è niente da spolpare. E con la pizza che cuoce per mia mi fa sempre consolare. La pizza bella tonne a tavola che abbonna di colore e varietà. Somigliano a quell'occhio che mi punta in faccia, bocca rossa da vasà. Non è bugia ma è una malia, pizza pizza fa gridare. Sta pizza fatta chi mano di tia è una cosa da gustare. Amore mio io vo, ma tu non mi aspettare. Che pizza tua dintamente mia mi fa sempre ritornare. Nussina Gina, Nussina Sofia, non c'è niente da spolpare. E con la pizza che cuoce per mia mi fai sempre consolare. Non è bugia ma è una malia, pizza pizza fai gridare. Sta pizza fatta chi mano di tia è una cosa da gustare. Amore mio io vo, ma tu non mi aspettare. Che pizza tua dentamente mia mi fa sempre ritornare.
And that is Pizza Pizza. I couldn't find the composer on that, although I want to thank secondhandsongs.com for helping me find the composers on the other tunes. And before that was O Cucciarello. And by the way, the last 7 letters, Ariello. And by the way, it means donkey. It was written by Nino Olivero and Roberto Morolo. By the way, happy anniversary to my mom and dad. We miss you terribly. Salute. Thank you for tuning into Volume 23 Anniversary Special for the Cafe Italiano, however you did. If you want more information about this podcast, head over to spinningmydadsvinyl.com. I'll be back next week with all my skips, scratches, and pops with Volume 24, Music America Loves, Part 1. Go with the flow, my friends.